Stephen's coming? Do we know?
The papers on there. Back, I'm not sure when.
So we'll resume this hearing now, it being 2:05. And I welcome the Church of Scientology and Ms McBride to today's hearing. Before inviting you to make an opening statement, I would like to remind you that the terms of reference of this inquiry are limited to the examination of the provisions of the Tax Laws Amendment Public Benefit Test Bill 2010. The committee acknowledges that there has been public commentary concerning particular organisations by certain individuals. However, the behaviour of specific individuals and organisations is not within the terms of reference of the committee, and the committee does not have any authority to deliberate on such matters. They are not relevant to this bill. I ask all members of the committee and witnesses to ensure that questions and comments are relevant to the terms of reference of the inquiry. I advise everybody here today that these are public hearings. The committee has a preference to hear all evidence in public. However, the committee may determine, based on the evidence being presented, that it is appropriate to hear evidence in camera. The committee may also agree to a request to hear evidence in camera. But I do advise witnesses and people present that even evidence given in camera may subsequently be made public if that is the wish of the Senate. I remind all witnesses that in giving evidence to the committee, they are protected by parliamentary privilege. It is unlawful for anyone to threaten or disadvantage a witness on account of evidence given to a committee, and such action may be treated by the Senate as a contempt. It is also a contempt to give false or misleading evidence to the committee. I have been advised that we've heard phones beeping in the audience, so I'd be grateful if everybody would turn off their telephones. So our witnesses now are the Church of Scientology, submission 66, and also Miss Louise McBride in a private capacity. Although these witnesses are appearing together, I understand Miss McBride is scheduled for 2 to 3, oh no, same time, sorry. I thought it was 3. So would you like to make an opening statement? Yes.
Mr. Chairman, on behalf of the Church of Scientology, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the committee for this invitation to appear today before this inquiry into the Tax Laws Amendment Public Benefit Test Bill 2010. In opening, we would like to recognise the long and proud tradition that exists in Australia for the promotion of religious freedom and tolerance. Our founding fathers, in uniting the 6 colonies to create the Commonwealth of Australia, recognised and understood the need to enshrine this basic human right for future generations. This freedom is formally safeguarded by Section 116 of the Australian Constitution. This foundation stone of our modern system of government prohibits the Commonwealth from making any law establishing any religion, imposing any religious observance, or prohibiting the free exercise of any religion. Further, individual Australians are free to express a diversity of views as long as they do not incite religious hatred within our neighbourhoods and communities. Today is important as this committee has been established to examine the Tax Laws Amendment Public Benefits Test Bill 2010. As senators are aware, this is a private member's bill. It has not been introduced by the Labor government or the coalition opposition. It is a bill that proposes that all charities and religions be subjected to a public benefits test that would put at risk the future of many organisations that are dedicated to delivering crucial community services for the betterment of our nation. I think it is also important to reflect that only 19 private members' bills have succeeded in passing into law since Federation. Today is all about a proposed taxation bill. I wish to assure the committee that we are cognisant of the narrow terms of reference that have been established. We look forward to assisting all members of the committee as per the terms of reference. Religions have been traditionally on the forefront of charitable work beyond the pure advancement of religion. In many of these instances, the impetus towards charity has come from within the religious philosophy itself, and a genuine belief that helping one's fellow man or women is spiritually inspired, not materially. Our religion and its followers are motivated by these same spiritual inspirations. As outlined in the Church's submission to this inquiry, Scientologists have been in Australia since 1952, with the Hubbard Association of Scientologists International opening in April 1955 in Melbourne. Our institution was incorporated locally as a non-profit religious fellowship for the purpose of research into the spirit and human soul and the use and dissemination of these findings. A central part of the religious philosophy of Scientology is that an individual exists as a part of a family, a work environment and a community. The community and social well-being of others is important to one's own family and personal success and happiness in life. Our church encourages its members to become involved in many community projects, and many do, both through financial support and active participation. In making our submission to the Senate Economics Legislation Committee concerning Tax Laws Amendment Public Benefits Test Bill 2010, the trustees of the Church underscored the myriad of grassroots initiatives undertaken by the Church in Australia and around the world. Some of these community activities include drug prevention. The Church of Scientology in Australia and around the world undertakes a range of drug education and prevention programs that have delivered significant and lasting benefits to communities around the world. In Australia, we have printed and distributed over 2.5 million anti-drug education flyers and booklets to youth and adults, and over 300,000 Australian youth have taken a drug-free pledge to dedicate themselves and others to remain or become drug-free. Our Scientology Volunteer Minister Program. Scientologists volunteer their help both in times of major disasters and in times of more personal disasters that befall all individuals. Our volunteer ministers have helped at New South Wales and Victorian bushfires, and Australians have travelled to many disasters to our neighbours in the South Pacific, including Indonesia, Samoa and the Philippines. And in the area of defending human rights, as highlighted in our submission to this inquiry, Sydney Scientologists were key in exposing the fatal risks and other dangers of deep sleep treatment, with over 1,100 patients exposed to this treatment in Australia. This resulted in the establishment of the New South Wales Royal Commission into Chelmsford Hospital. This work was officially recognised by the New South Wales report of the Royal Commission into deep sleep treatment. On an international front, more than 800 volunteer ministers gave of themselves for months to help. They were initially fully supported by the Church of Scientology. This is in relation to 9/11. Here is what the police chief of New York said afterwards. As one who would say firsthand what was needed at the World Trade Center site in the days and weeks immediately following September 11, I want to thank you, the Church of Scientology, and the volunteer ministers of the Church of Scientology, many of whom came long distances to help us. The volunteer ministers work with great energy and compassion at Ground Zero, helping to ease the physical burdens and mental strains of rescue workers. From the earliest days of this tragedy until the time when volunteers were no longer needed at the site, the people of your church were there in force. The organisation, the caring and the dedication of your volunteer ministers was exceptional and very much appreciated, and will long be remembered by those who received their help. I cannot thank the volunteer ministers enough, and that's from the Chief of Police in the City of New York. And in Haiti, the Church sent more than 500 volunteers recently to Haiti, some of them Australians, including medical doctors, emergency medical technicians and nurses. They worked with the University of Miami's Tent Hospital at the capital and also at the airport, and helped to save thousands of lives. The Georgia State Legislature commended this effort. There were many other letters of commendation received by the Church and the volunteer ministers for the work they did, and these copies can be made available to the committee. And specifically on the topic of Narconon, I would like to also mention that in August-September 2009, the International Association of Scientologists gave a grant to Narconon, Nepal, of over $1 million to purchase and renovate facilities for the group. In terms of funding for the social betterment and charitable activities that the Church sponsors or supports, it is true that the funds that the Church does ask come from its parishioners to donate to support these organisations and activities, which is what all charitable organisations do. Where else is money going to come from, if not its members? The Church also has used its resources to develop materials and its own facilities to develop audiovisual properties that are used within the Church. Given this inquiry has been established to inquire into the proposed Tax Laws Amendment Public Benefits Test Bill 2010, I would now like to address the specific matters relating to the tax treatment of the Church of Scientology in Australia. A tax concession has been available to religious and charitable institutions, among other bodies, in Australia in all federal government income tax statutes since 1915, without the requirement to demonstrate tangible benefits available to the public at large or an appreciably important section of the public. As senators are aware, the granting of charitable status in Australia is already a highly regulated process. As the committee, there are lengthy tests and requirements that must be met to prove that a charitable status is deserved, governed by the Australian Tax Office.